when the guy at Manuka's out of work, it's an economic slowdown. When your brother-in-law's out of work, it's a recession. When you're out of work, it's a depression. What's a depression? It's a depression for millions of Americans.
Months ago, you said a Greek default would be inevitable. EU leaders now scrambling to try to avoid a default. France saying today it will do what it takes to rescue Greece. Are you sticking by your forecast?
I think the next time you talk to a French official, ask them how much Greek debt they own. You can get about a 40% interest rate on a 2-year Greek government bond. I'll bet there are not a lot of French officials, despite all these statements of doing everything necessary, I bet there are not a lot of them who are prepared to gamble their own personal money to get a 40% return when deep down inside they know Greece is about to default.
If there is a default, what will the impact be? Is there systemic risk? We've talked for a while that this is a possibility. Have things been priced into some markets already?
Well, the real question is not so much the markets and marketable securities, bonds and all that, but what's happening inside the banks. And everybody, of course, denies that there's any risk. Everybody says there's enough capital in these banks so that if there's a Greek default or a Portuguese default, the banks will be okay. But we don't really know. And the banks, especially in Europe, have vastly more debt relative to their economy and to the size of those banks. So they really do run the risk that if it's not just Greece, or maybe even Greece and Portugal, but it starts to reduce the value of the Italian bonds, the Spanish bonds, and perhaps lead to one of those two countries going into default, that the banks won't be able to cope.